All right, what's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday, July the 8th. Already July the 8th.
Yeah,
We got another edition of Three Up, Three Down for y'all tonight. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Trying to stay a little cool. It's over 100 here today, so just yeah, it's a little brutal. So just trying to sit in the AC and not do much today.
Like every day of my life.
That's fair.
Heck yeah. All right, cool. Well, thanks for being here, man. Thank you for all the
Absolutely.
listeners for being here. We're gonna just dive right in. I wanted to introduce a new thing. We haven't really done this yet. You and I hadn't really even talked about it yet. But I was talking to my buddy last night, and we were talking about pick shows, fantasy pick shows, and how you always watch them, and you always got some guys telling you why these picks are the best picks, and then the next day when they've all bombed, they don't really talk about it. So I
Hmm.
kind of wanted to just for transparency's sake, put up our plays from last night and kind of just
Hmm.
quick review them. You know what I mean? Just see,
Yeah, absolutely.
what we did wrong.
I like
Um,
it.
yeah, and then yeah. So we'll just start there, man. I really can't see that. So maybe you can do it better than me. If you can see it better than me, you can read off on that list. I know we had well, we'll just go through it, man. Uh, the Jose Barrios call. I was not on
Yeah.
Jose Barrios. He wouldn't even been in my player pool until I talked to you, and
Hmm.
I think he was the top scoring pitcher last night.
Yep.
And that's what's great about doing these shows like this because
Hmm.
you know you might go all day long not thinking about a guy, and then you hear me or you say something, and you're like, oh yeah, let me stick them in my player pool. It's just
Hmm.
always nice to get fresh ideas from another source. It can become real. Uh, you can just sort of like
Hmm.
get blinded by certain players. You just get
Yeah.
stoned in and don't consider other guys. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, Jose Barrios was a perfect example of that last night. I think he
Yeah.
scored 30 on DraftKings, so
Yeah.
that's really good.
Big game. Big
Um,
game.
at catcher, Narvaez was okay for us. But he better
Mhm.
than okay. He scored 10 points.
Yeah.
Um, Kirk, Stevenson, they really didn't pan out too well. But if you
Yeah.
had Narvaez, you were in good shape.
Hmm.
Uh, at first, Vladdy he was okay, 13 points. Romy went off. He
Yeah.
had 24 points last night, and Salvador Perez, I think, was the highest scoring of those three with I
Hmm.
think he had 28 points.
Yeah.
Um, so we sort of, I don't think we missed anywhere at first. I mean, Vladdy, that price
Yeah.
tag was high last night.
Yeah.
That 13, it might have killed you. If you played the Blue Jays last night, though, if you stacked that offense, you were in pretty good shape, though.
Yeah, for sure.
McLean, a big donut last night. I don't even know if he played. And
Yeah,
then
I'm not sure.
India had 12 points.
Mm.
Barger looked okay for us. Ellie, that was the Ellie De La Cruz. That was a big miss for me because
Yeah.
he was in the lineups last night. I went
Hmm.
heavy on the Reds offense last night,
Yeah.
and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Uh,
Unfortunately, you just never know, right?
right, right. and I think we did get Corey Seager right last night for our
Yep.
home run call. So
Yep.
just I just want to like go over what we did last night,
Definitely.
so everybody can kind of see. Okay, yeah, they at
Definitely.
least they're willing to own it when they make the bad calls.
For
And
sure.
the Grom was probably a bad call. Man, that was a rough night for him.
Yeah. Not
And
ideal.
when you play DraftKings, there's a lot of money at stake. You're playing every night for real legit money.
Hmm.
So it's nice to it's good to figure out what you did wrong. The
Hmm.
lineups that you lose on, you can learn a lot more from them than you can with the ones you win on, I think. So
Yeah, for sure.
learning where you made the wrong decisions, that helps a lot in a game like this.
Hmm.
So anyway,
I agree.
that's my piece. So got that
Absolutely.
covered. I guess, man, let's go over the slate a little bit. Anywhere you looking at in particular, good spots for offense on your list?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, I kept some similarities to last night. But I wanted to kind of actually look at a matchup that I actually didn't have on my radar at all that I think I actually may have overlooked, and that's the Mets at Baltimore. The pitcher Baltimore has tonight is Young. He's got a 7.0 ERA. I didn't realize he was the starter tonight, so I didn't really put many Mets in my grouping at all. But that's one I think I overlooked because I think that's going to be a high-scoring game, especially for the Mets. But some of the games that I did highlight, again, I had the Reds in there. I know it didn't pan out last night, but I still have some faith that could be fairly high-scoring. I have the Blue Jays again against the White Sox. I mean, the White Sox are just putrid, so I can see Blue Jays scoring a lot more runs there. And I had the Cardinals actually a decent amount against the Nationals, who have been struggling to pitch recently. And their pitcher tonight is Irvin, who's not one of their best pitchers. So I had that matchup highlighted. And then the Braves and Athletics I also had highlighted with the Braves, because even though the Braves haven't been great, the Athletics as a whole have been scoring a lot, but their pitching hasn't been good. So I had the Braves with a favorable matchup there as well.
I like all those spots. I pretty much wrote all that down. I put 2 stars here. No lie, I mean, I don't know if you can read it on my screen here, but there's 2 stars underneath the Mets.
Yep.
Literally just did that about 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I didn't have Mets in my player pool either. The thing about tonight is at least on our models, I haven't looked other places yet, but on our projections, they weren't really popping off the screen, and I don't know if they were scoring it properly with Young as the pitcher for the O's. So I would say the Mets could be, if you're playing in a lot of lineups, if you're playing a big 100,000 entry tournament, the Mets may go under the radar. So I definitely keep them on your radar for sure, because that, you're right, that's a good spot. I like the Athletics, another good spot. I like the Marlins. Excuse me. I like the Athletics and the Braves. I like everything in that game. I think Sutter Health tonight, the temp's gonna be almost 90 degrees out there, and the wind's blowing out. And we've seen with the minor league ballpark, when the wind's blowing out there, it's a completely different ballpark. So
100%.
The Braves have a lot of pop in that lineup. The Athletics have some pop with guys like Rooker. So I think that's in play. I also like what else did I write? Oh yeah, the Cubs. I like the Cubs tonight. I like the Marlins and the Reds. You'll see. I had keyed in on a few Marlins players tonight. So, and the Red Sox are in there too. Again, Fenway. It's another decent hitting night there, and they're like one of the top projected offenses again on the slate. So,
they've been killing it recently. So,
yeah, they really settled in. I mean, what's going to happen? It's a young offense, so here in a week or two, someone's going to start slumping, then they're all going to start.
Yeah, I was going to say it's streaky, very streaky. Yeah. So ride the wave while you can.
Bets, because they're not moving the price on any of these guys. They're still cheap on DK.
Yeah,
I mean, you can. Narvaez is still only like 3,400. I think.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. He's one of the most consistent catchers. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Cal Raleigh, he's one of the better catchers and offensive catchers in the American League. So, yeah. All right, cool. Well, let's just get on into it, man. Oh, you know what? I did want to do one thing. This is also kind of new. I don't know if we have people, betting that watch the show here, but I did find a pretty good value prop here on Merril Kelly. I don't know if you can see that. It's hard for me to see it. The screen's so small, but
yeah, I can see. Yeah, over 4.5 strikeouts, 105 odds. Yeah.
I think DK's got that thing at 105, almost even money. Our models made that prop projected at like negative 250. So there's it's a huge value there. So if you're gambling today, if you still got time to get any bets in, Merril Kelly over 4.5 Ks. I understand why the book's so tight on him, because the Padres only strike out like maybe the second or third most. I forget what it is right now, but they don't strike out a lot. But I mean,
Yep,
4.5 Ks. I think Kelly's on point to do that pretty easily tonight. So we have him
definitely.
projected for over 6. So fire up Kelly tonight. All right. So let's get on into it, man. Let's start at starting pitchers. Chris, take us away. If you see anything that you wanted to put on that list that's not there, or anybody you think should come off.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I buy all three of those. Hunter Brown was my number one there as well. I think he's just got a pretty fantastic matchup for himself there against Cleveland. Just because, Cleveland's offense isn't necessarily one that should give him fits. The other two on there, I think they're both good. I had a couple other names myself too, although I would say all three of my names were sort of bigger names. So I like Will Warren and Yuri Perez is a little bit cheaper options there that I think can slot in and should have pretty good games, especially I would say Warren against the Mariners. The Mariners have been scuffling a little bit on offense there. So I do like that. I have a little bit of concerns about Perez against the Reds. I know the Reds have not been showing what they're capable of, but Great American Ballpark is a tough place to pitch a lot of the time. So it'll be curious to see how Perez does there. A couple other the bigger names they had thrown out there were just Sonny Gray for St. Louis. I think is a good one to watch just because of that matchup there specifically. Not even necessarily where they are, but just the fact that they're facing Washington. I thought was a solid option there. And then same logic regarding Nate Eovaldi, who's been fantastic pretty much all season, but going against the Angels, I think that's a good matchup for him. So
I love both the spots. I especially like Nasty Nate's spot against the Angels. I think we highlighted this last night. The Angels are striking out, I think, the most or the second most. They're right there behind the Rockies if they're not the number one strikeout rate in all of baseball. So, Nate, I love that tonight. The reason I went with Yuri was that I just wanted to have someone up there that was with some salary relief. Yuri's projections sort of popping off the page. I think we got him projected for, you see it there, 15.7.
Yep.
I have the same concerns at Great American. I think just at $6,000, man, we gotta have him score 12 or 13 for him not to kill our lineup.
Yeah,
and make
definitely.
I 12, 13 probably feels like something he can do. Will Warren, I think a lot of people are shying away from Will Warren after that clunker he threw up last week, but the moon did not show anything. His pitches looked quality last week. I think it was just one of those things, one of those baseball things. They just get,
Yeah, sometimes hitters just win. Sometimes they just do it. They're professional too. So sometimes they're just gonna hit what you're throwing, even when you have a nice night.
The current Mariners are hitting just 150 against Warren. Okay, so I think he can mow through this lineup. We don't have a tremendously high K prop on him. So if he can get us 5 or 6 Ks, I feel like Warren will be a good play. Sure. I feel good about the win there. Yeah, I know they've been scuffling, but I think this is a get right night for Warren in that.
That'd be good. Team. That'd be good.
But also, with all that said, the wind is blowing out, and it's like 90 degrees in the Bronx. So there are some challenges ahead of us. That's the main reason I didn't put the Mariners pitcher on the list here. So
definitely.
Hunter Brown, what else needs to be said? I think he's got the highest K projection of the night for us. So, but yeah, I do. I really like the Nate Eovaldi call. So let's remember that. We'll be revisiting that tomorrow when he scores like 40 points.
For sure.
Yeah. All right, cool. Oh, I skipped over catcher. Hold on.
Yeah.
Sorry, the screen's not working with me. Go ahead. Whatever you're gonna say.
Yeah, so I was just gonna jump in with catchers. Is that I know that the projection isn't up there, but we had a fairly similar collection, it seems, as we did last night. I know, at least for me, I had both Kirk and Narvaez back in there again. I know Kirk really didn't do much last night. Narvaez had a good game. Yeah, okay, so we do have Kirk and Narvaez both up there, but it's slim pickings in the AL with catchers outside of Raleigh and quite frankly Narvaez. There's not a lot of consistency there, so you sort of got to play the matchups a little bit. And I still like Kirk's matchup, even though he didn't have a great game there. And then on the flip side, we have William Contreras there, which I think is a great pick. I had him listed there actually at a possibility for first base, I believe, as well.
Mhm.
But I also had a Murphy there, solely and only because of his matchup. I know that he's been scuffling a little bit. He's the type of catcher that kind of needs consistent play to put up good numbers. But against that Athletics pitching staff, I thought he could have a nice night there. And so I sort of kept him there. I don't know what his cost is exactly, but I was thinking he could be a little bit of a cheaper option there for people who are trying to just sort of throw a catcher out there, and not spend a lot in that position. He could be somebody to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I like it. I don't really have much to add to that. I think that Kirk, we got him projected for 9.4 points. He's got in 3 of his last 5 games, he's had at least one hit or an run or an RBI. So 1 hit, run, or an RBI in 3 of his last 5 games. He's contributing. It's another good spot tonight for the Jays. So yeah, I like Kirk. Like you said, it's just the catcher position is sort of, there's not a lot of meat on that bone. You know what I mean? After you get past Raleigh and Narvaez, exactly like you said. Oh, Kirk's been good though. I think
he has been. Kirk could be included in that conversation overall. I agree with that.
Yep. And then Narvaez, Contreras. I like the Murphy call. Yeah, like all that. I think those are all good plays tonight. Again, I'm higher on Kirk than Narvaez tonight. It's been the other way around a lot this year, but I really like the Blue Jays offense a lot tonight. That's a theme of the day for me.
Agreed. I do too. I do as well.
All right. Figure out these sooner or later.
Yeah. So at first base probably looks, it looks a little bit similar, I guess, at least at the top. Rami had a great game last night. I would expect something similar tonight. Not only because they're facing the Rockies, who already have questionable pitching as it is, but they're also facing a left-hander at Fenway Park, and he feasts off left-handers. Freeland, who has had a pretty awful season this year, at least in terms of success rate. Maybe his ERA isn't quite as bad as a couple other names out there, but 1-9, he's probably going to get hit around a bit, I would think. And then for the other two, Matt Olson, this sort of is a theme with the Braves tonight, specifically against the Athletics. I think he should have a good game, though he's one of the bigger names out there, so he might cost you a little bit more to get there. I see that he's about 1,500 more than the others on the list, but I think he's a fairly safe bet if you're going for a position that you want, a high floor there. And then you had Miguel Vargas there. I hadn't actually put him on there yet, but he could have a good matchup there too. But if you want to dig in a little bit more on him, I mean, he seems like a good value pick there.
That's pretty much what it was for. If you're gonna play Braves bats tonight and Jays bats, you're gonna need to save some salary somewhere, and it seems like it's not on pitching because we got a lot of the comfortable feel good names are over 9,500, so it's going to be hard to save salary there. So we're going to need the guys like Miguel Vargas. He's projecting well, but that's really it. I mean, just if you're looking for salary saver, Miguel is probably one of my favorite salary relief picks.
For sure.
Matt Olson, yeah, dude, there's going to be some balls flying out of that park tonight at Sutter Health. So
definitely.
Matt Olson's got power to get it out of there. Wind's blowing out. I mean, that's the, Romy, 24 points last night. Look for him to stay hot. I wanted to say that we put these high price guys up here. they're going to have the safest floor. A guy like Olsen, a guy like Mute, guys like Otani, Judge. At any given night, they're going to have the most safe floor because they're the best hitters in baseball. But it does go wrong 70% of the time with them too. You know what I mean? Like these guys hit
absolutely.
300, 350. So I wanted to tell people that the 5,000 and above players aren't necessarily priorities for me in a given night. If they're in the offenses that I want to attack and play with, then I'll make sure I have them in those lineups. But outside of that, I'm not crafting a lineup to make sure I can afford Matt Olson tonight. Unless
Definitely.
I'm 25 Atlanta Braves lineups. Otherwise, I'm not going to make it a priority to pay for Matt Olson. If I have the 1,000 available at the end and I can upgrade at first base and he's available, and I can afford him, then that's what I'll do. But with those high price guys, I don't go out of my way to get them in the lineup. So
yeah, I think it really comes down to position and the differential between the best and the next tier.
Yeah.
And for me, it just comes down to are the players in that position in the next tier comparable enough to the most expensive ones to make it worth saving there. Which is sort of why with catcher I was leaning towards the most expensive ones anyway, because I think there's really people that aren't comparable. You have a higher potential of laying a goose egg with the next tier. Whereas like you said in first base here, I think there's a lot on the next tier, that can score as much, if not even potentially more. And the payoff just for spending the extra money is not necessarily there the way that it would be maybe at catcher or at pitcher or some of the other sparser positions. Second base is another one I think that's a little bit more sparse. Positions like that where it's worth paying the extra money to get a more likely sure thing there.
Yep, I agree. All right, let's see here. Nope. Okay, there you are.
There we are. Hey, you want to kick us off with this one? Speaking of second base.
Yeah, for sure. So we've got our top projected second baseman on the list here is Xavier Edwards. Like I said, I like the Marlins in Great American tonight. Yep. And Xavier scored 10 or more DK points in 3 of his last 5. So he's going to be kind of in the center of any Marlins lineup I build. And he'll be somebody I include in all sorts of other lineups as well. I like Xavier Edwards. I like the tag at second base. I'd like to spend a little less on middle infielders, but we're okay there. 4,000 is a good tag. Brendan Donovan, he's just projecting well.
He is, yeah.
About the same price as Xavier. If you just need somebody to pivot off of Xavier Edwards, Brendan Donovan's a good play. And then Ozzie Albies, obviously, again, in Sutter Health Park tonight. I love all the Braves. I don't really have any Athletics nor too many in my player pool, but I got a lot of Braves, and so
same.
Yeah, Albies. He's one of the cheaper Braves you can roster, $3,600. You'll need him. If you're doing Braves lineups, you're going to have to include Albies in pretty much most of them.
Absolutely. I agree with everything that you said there. I did have McLean in the conversation as well for the Reds. But I think that sort of goes to our sort of where we deferred a little bit in terms of what we expected out of Yuri Perez. I think that's where the differential there comes from. I think you have Yuri having a good game for cheap, and then maybe I'm not buying into him having a bounce back game tonight. And so I think that's where the differential there comes in, how you feel about Perez. So
how do I feel about him?
No, I'm saying I think for people who are deciding their lineup, it's going to come down to what they think about Yuri Perez and whether they think he's going to have a solid game, bounce back type game tonight, or whether they think the Reds bats are going to wake up a little bit from their more of a slump that they had last night.
And the Reds are one of those teams, especially at home,
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of exposure to them early in the year. Man, they can really they can turn that lineup over quick. Before you know it, they
Yeah.
can put 5 runs on you. So
Yep.
um, they're a good offensive target tonight, and I like Matt McClain. He's going to be
Mm-hmm.
hitting right at the top of that lineup.
Yeah.
I think he's probably. I don't have it in front of me. I think he's hitting second tonight. So
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
right, third base.
Yeah. So third base.
Go ahead, Chris.
Just gonna say it looks pretty similar to what we've sort of talked about before. Obviously, Berger's up there. I think on both of ours, he's got the highest projection, and he's not super expensive. He's the cheapest of the three on there, as a matter of fact. So that's a pretty good buy there. You know what I mean? And then we both have, I believe we both had Austin Riley in there as well tonight. I think that's just going Braves. I mean, you see a pattern here. With Braves starters. And then we have Isaac Paredes on there, which is always. I mean, he's a threat to mash a home run anytime he's out there. It's interesting. He's the most expensive of the three. I think I would argue he might be less safe than Austin Riley right now. But he still should put up good numbers. And then I had actually thrown out one more name out there. I had McMahon, who you had last night against the Red Sox. I have him tonight against the Red Sox for similar reasons. He's the only bat on the Rockies that's really doing anything this year. So.
What I like is that, and our list is matching up with this. A lot of these guys, the general public, are going to be on already. What I like is the Red Sox Rockies game is sort of flying under the radar because I think we can get exposure to the Red Sox lineup, and usually they're one of the more popular offensive teams to attack on any slate. But I think tonight the Braves, the Reds, the Mets, I mean, those are going to be very popular plays too. So
Definitely.
I think we'll be able to get the Red Sox and that train wreck Freeland kind of under the radar. So
absolutely.
I think that with all that said, I think Austin Riley is probably, if I'm picking one of those guys to hit a home run tonight, it's Riley.
I agree with that.
I think Addison hit one last night, I think. So
he might have, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is both of those spots are two of my favorite spots to attack offenses. Blue Jays and the Braves. So yeah, I make the list.
For sure.
All right, shortstop, take it away.
Yeah. So
tell me who you like there, and tell me why they got to go.
All right. So we both agreed on Bo Bichette. I think we both liked that matchup there. For Bichette. So I think that's a pretty safe bet. He's also the highest projection there, as far as I can remember. The other two is where we deferred a little bit. So I had, and it's interesting, we were just talking about it in the last section, but I had Story on there. Not only did I have Story on there as a shortstop against Freeland, lefty on righty with the Green Monster there, and some pretty decent conditions for hitting tonight. But I actually picked him as my home run pick tonight as well. I think he can tee off on Freeland, and so I'm looking at him there. And then the third name that I had, again, this really came down to what we were just talking about. What you think of Yuri Perez's night. I again put a red in there and Ellie De La Cruz, even though he didn't have a great night last night, just because I'm not buying into Perez's night tonight in Great American Ballpark. So that's where I sort of deferred. I don't think that your picks are wrong, though. I think Crawford could have a good game. I don't love the pitching matchup for him, but I love the field that he's on. Obviously, is very conducive to offense. So I think that's where he could make an impact, and especially for that price tag, he could be worth it as a cheap option. And then, yeah, this is again just coming down to Miami and Cincinnati and sort of what you're buying into tonight as far as Otto Lopez is concerned. So
Yeah, I think that was the main thought process behind Otto Lopez tonight was inexpensive access to that game. 3,700, I think. Yeah, 3,700. JP, yeah, he's projecting well, and is another cheap shortstop. So when I see cheap shortstops projecting in the top 5 or 6 on the list of shortstops,
for sure.
It jumps off the page at me, and I'm like, okay, yeah, those are guys I will look at because otherwise you're paying for the Bobby Witts and the De La Cruzes at almost 6,000, and it's hard to do that. So.
Definitely. Well, it's interesting too in regards to our sort of projections here. We have Warren as a potential buy option there against J.P. Crawford. So it's hedging your bets a little bit if you pick both of them. In terms of one of them will likely perform well. So it's a little bit of a bet hedger there to try to get something out of that game.
I usually don't love playing a hitter against my pitcher, but you got to rank the 2 on DraftKings.
Yep.
We got to find salary relief at our SPT. And so Will Warren and JP Crawford both being salary relief options, sort of. I think, in this case, I would probably make an exception and end up, especially in a cash lineup, I could probably play them together. If I'm stacking the Mariners, obviously I'm not going to play Will Warren because that would be be stupid. But for sure, I think Crawford is you can play him in Will Warren lineups. I think Crawford's even if Crawford hits a home run, and Will Warren, the wind's blowing out there tonight. Will Warren could give up 1 or 2 long balls and still deliver with 6-7 days and win the ball game, and then that's at $8,000. If he scores 19, 20 points for you on DK, you're in good shape. So
definitely,
you're in good shape. You probably won't take down a team, but you're in
for sure. For sure.
All right, outfield. We're going to be all over the place here because there was a lot of good plays in the outfield tonight. You see, I kind of like Tucker and Happ. I like the Cubs tonight. We haven't even talked about them, but I like that spot for offense too.
Definitely.
What do you think?
Yeah. No, I like it. I had Tucker as my number 1. I know technically our projections have Pico Armstrong up there as well. I just felt like Tucker was a slightly safer bet in that game. I also had Sanchez there. I think that's a great grab. It's funny. He's my one Merlin. I did sort of hone in on. I think he's for that cheap price. I think he's well worth it in the outfield. I think he should have a good game. And then Ian Happ, we were just talking about the Cubs. That's a good matchup. I also had thrown out, similar names as last night. Rafaela against Colorado could have another good game. He's been red hot. Frito for the Reds, same type of thing. Berger for the Blue Jays, another name. I had Acuna on there as the Brave, but he is expensive, and I'm not sure if he's worth the differential there. I think you can get similar value for a lot cheaper out of him, despite the fact that I do think he's going to have a great game in that one.
What's Acuna's price tag? Do you have that in front of you?
I do not right now, unfortunately. But if you want to talk and explain some of your thinking, I can look for it and see if I can find it.
It should be in the show doc on the projections under outfield.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at right now. I'm scrolling through. So
yeah, Jesus Sanchez, man. For me, and we'll look at it in a second on the next panel, but Jesus is one of our top 10 most likely home runs tonight. Your top 10 probable home runs tonight. So at 3,800, to be able to get that, especially in an outfield where you got guys like Kyle Tucker, you're going to want to play. Ian Happ, you're going to want to play. So Sanchez at 3,800 was, to me, that's probably one of my favorite outfield plays.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. No, just to answer your question, Acuna is at 6,300. He's the third most expensive behind Judge and Otani. So
Think about it. I mean, you got what's Pete Crow? He was at 51, was he?
55. Yeah,
55.
55.
So you just there from Acuna to Pete Crow Armstrong, you got an $800 salary difference.
Absolutely.
I know the conditions are great in Atlanta tonight. We kind of been hyping that game up all night.
Mm-hmm.
But even if Acuna hits a home run, I mean, think about how many points you got to score at $6,300 salary to kind of pay off.
Definitely.
We're looking for probably 20 points from him tonight, and so he's got to hit one out of there with runners on 100%. At least. So,
interestingly, we didn't put him on here, but in that exact same game, for the exact same reasons, you can grab Marcell Ozuna for almost half that price. He's only 3,800 in tonight's game. And, he has almost as much potential. I mean, he's obviously not as good of a player overall, but the potential to hit a home run is just as much there as it is with Acuna for half the price. So
yeah. If I think that those two guys, Acuna and Albies, are going to be key if you're playing Brave stacks tonight because I mean Ozuna. I don't mean Acuna. Marcell and Albies you're gonna have to play those guys to be able to get to Acuna and Austin Riley and Matt Olson. I mean, you won't be able to play all those guys and have any kind of decent pitcher probably, but
right.
But it would be interesting. You know what we should do tomorrow night? It's too late to do it now. We don't have it set up. But on a show tomorrow night, we should build a lineup on DraftKings, and we can show it to the viewers.
Definitely.
Hell, we'll pay $1 and put it in a contest and see if it wins anything.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
All right, cool. So let's go ahead and look at this is something we haven't done yet, but I'm going to start doing it here. This is our most likely to hit a home run report.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble seeing the screen, so maybe you want.
Yes, yeah, I could read it. So we've got probably Cal Riley's at the top. I think that's a pretty safe bet. The probability is 32%. And then we go down from there. So Aaron Judge is next at a little over 30%. Addison Barger at 25%. Kyle Stowers, which is somebody we didn't talk about really at all today, is at 23.8% there. Byron Buxton, Buxton for the Twins. Yep, at 23%. Soto at 23%. Neither of them have faced the pitcher they're going against yet. Bo Bichette, who we talked about, is at 22%, although he has not had much success against the pitcher. So that's something to keep an eye on. And then Otani is on there at 22%. Jesus Sanchez on there at 21.5%. We just talked about him. And then Alejandro Kirk is at a little over 20%. We talked about him as well. So some names that we discussed show up on that list. And then, of course, all the big names, as you would expect, are also on there. So
Yeah. Heck yeah. Cool. Well, we should try to remember to look at this tomorrow and see if any of these guys hit.
Definitely.
All right, cool. Let's go to the dinger of the day. Oh, I almost deleted it. Dinger of the day. Here we go.
There you go. Yeah. So I already spoiled mine. I had Trevor Story. He's not necessarily in the projection. That's purely a gut feeling pick for me. I just feel like a lefty pitcher in Kyle Freeland that's really struggling this year against Trevor Story, who does well against lefties, and he's got the green monster right there for him. You know, he's swinging a decent bat right now. I know he didn't have a great game yesterday. But I just, something in my gut tells me he's gonna get into one against Freeland tonight, and I not based on any statistics, just based purely on my gut feeling about the matchup. So I went with Story there.
Yeah, I like that. I like Story. That's obviously anytime he gets to face a left-handed pitcher, he can feast. So I like that. I think Jesus Sanchez woke up this morning and was like, dude, I can't wait to get to the ballpark because he's got perfect hitting conditions. I mean, I think he's probably ready to juice one out of there, man. So
Sure.
he's one of my favorite plays on the slate. Just that price tag and the potential to go yard tonight. Really like Davidson Sanchez.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right, man, did we forget anything, or did we get through the slate
Oh,
already?
we got through everything. Yeah, we plowed through that.
It's a big slate. I just want to sort of summarize, kind of readdress this. Braves, Jays, Mets, and Orioles. We didn't really talk about anybody, but they're in play. The Mets are in play. And then probably the Marlins at Great American and the Red Sox against the Rockies in Fenway tonight. Those are, and I'll put the Cubs on that list too. I'm just not sure.
Yeah.
With those price tags, and I think maybe the Jays and the Braves are like how I'm going to build tonight. I'm going to focus on getting Braves.
Yeah, I think for their prices, those are two teams you can get some good plays for a little bit cheaper. I think part of the reason, even though the Mets have a great matchup, a lot of the players you'd lean on are their expensive players, the Sotos, the Lindors, players like that could cost a lot. So if you're looking for value plays, they may not have that, even though I think they're safe plays overall against the Orioles tonight,
Was Soto on the top 10 list? Yeah,
he is on there, yeah.
Soto could go yard tonight.
He definitely could.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, man, I think that's us. We pretty much wrapped it up quicker than I thought. Yeah. Anything that any last thoughts? Anything you want to talk about?
No, I think we covered everything. I like it. I think we got, we got everything, and hopefully everybody has, some solid picks there and has a good night tonight.
Yeah, and I think again, drop a comment down if you want to see anything we're not doing that you'd like to see. Give us any advice you got. We can always talk about other aspects of this. We're kind of this show is just designed to give you what we think are the best plays at each position, safest kind of floors with some upside, stuff you can build your cash game lineups around or your single entry lineups around.
I will say, sorry, really quickly before we go, I did just see a comment in our stream. So I guess Wong is catching tonight, not Narvaez. So people should not put Narvaez in there. It'll be Wong tonight. So
no Narvaez. So cross him off the list.
Hardy Fly 10. Thank you for that, for letting us know.
No, Hardy Fly. I know that guy.
There you go.
He might be lying to us.
Who knows?
All right, cool. Well, I think that's it, man. I got nothing else to add. Let's I hope we see all of y'all at the top of the leaderboards tonight. And everybody enjoy your Tuesday night, and we're almost halfway through the week, guys.
Yeah, definitely. See you guys tomorrow.
All right, that's us. We out.
Bye.